Meeting of the Board of Ellis County Commissioners will now come to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Donna, if you could call the roll.
Commissioner Dean Hazelworth.
Present.
Chair Butch Schleier.
Present.
Commissioner Dustin Rock.
Present.
Okay, you have a quorum present.
Okay, thank you. Order of business tonight. We are going to move the contract extension for hauling services to number 10 and move the 2019 audit to number 11. And we will have 2 executive sessions. Prior minutes. Did you guys see the prior minutes?
Let's see which ones those were.
Yeah.
It was from last week, I believe.
It was.
Oh, yes, yep.
I had no questions.
Okay, minutes stand as submitted. Do I hear a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion for the consent agenda items A through G.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Issues from persons not on the order of business. Donna?
Commissioners, good evening. Establish permanent status on the ballot, then they get a ballot for every election that they qualify for. And we have 186 of those that have been requested. And then the advance mail ballot request, we have 3,205. So we have a total, as of this morning, 3,405 ballots that have been requested for the upcoming November 3rd general election. Thank you.
Is Jason here?
Not yet, I don't think.
Jason's not here yet? Okay. How about the county attorney? Is he here?
Yep, Tom's
okay.
there.
The transition planning for county attorney's office. Tom?
Good evening. Tom Drees, Ellis County Attorney. I have with me Robert Anderson, Jr. Robert has won the primary for Ellis County Attorney and has no one on the other side for the general election, so he'll be my successor in office. So I'm hiring him into the county attorney's office as a special contractor, just an independent contractor, to work in the county attorney's office starting October 1st. So he'll be working there, and I'm also hiring in a legal assistant, Jessica Heilman, to work there. She'll start hopefully this week, and they'll work through the transition, which is January 11th, is when I will no longer be county attorney after 24 years. So Robert's going to come in and start learning the office and learning this side of the fence, and he'll do a great job with that. But that way we can hopefully have a very smooth transition for law enforcement and for everyone in the court system for the county attorney's office to transition. I have the money in my budget. I don't need any additional funding from the commissioners. That's there in my budget to utilize for that purpose. So that's what I'm planning to do.
Good job. Welcome, Robert.
Work out if it's in budget. One question, Robert, are you, I know you have done some defense work, so you'll just step completely away from the defense work?
I'm in the process of winding down my office currently.
Perfect.
You have to step over to the mic and you can take your mask.
Sorry.
That way I guess for the record's sake as well. Yeah, I'm in the process of winding down my office currently. I probably have well over half of my cases closed out already. And so since there are things still on the calendar, I'm still having court over the next couple of weeks. Basically, a week and a half before October 1, I'll really make a strong push to get out of whatever remaining cases I have. So, that's my understanding through Judge Brown. So I've been doing orders, transferring cases to her, creating memos for each file, that sort of thing. And so her and I are on the same page, getting those cases transferred over. That's the bulk of my caseload at the moment. I stopped taking other appointments and things several months ago in preparation for this.
That's great.
Good deal. Welcome.
A lot of seat changing in there.
Yes.
So, perfect.
Yeah, give me a lot of transition after 20-some years.
Awesome.
So with the sheriff and the county attorney
Mhm.
and John Tremblay at Community Corrections will be
Yeah.
retiring, so there's going to be a lot of changeover.
Yep.
So, also, Judge Brown is moving heaven and earth with the Supreme Court to try to get permission to get a couple of juries tried here yet this year. With COVID, that's going to be quite the endeavor.
Right.
So the additional help will be very welcome in the office as we transition.
Mhm.
Very good. Thanks for the update, guys.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you all.
Okay, take care. Okay, Jason. We'll have the China virus update with Jason.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jason Kennedy, Ellis County Health Services. So tonight, we did have 20 new cases over the weekend. That brings our active cases actually down, a decrease from Friday, in that our recoveries outpaced our new cases, which is good. 196 active cases in Ellis County. 6 active hospitalizations. We have seen an increase in hospitalizations over the last week, mostly associated with a cluster that was identified in a long-term care facility. So we have seen that decrease from 9 on Friday down to 6. Recovered cases brings us to 495. Positive test results, 681. People question why the difference between the total and the positive test. That does bring into account the 13 probable cases that were not tested but had symptomology, close contact, all that kind of stuff. Total test, 5,400. Percent of positive overall is 12.7. 7-day average is 14.7. Total deaths are 3. We did add two additional deaths on Friday, unfortunately. Probable cases, 13, and a total of 694. Now, as we look graphically, what we've seen, our percent of positive, thankfully, has decreased. Honestly, we talked last time, the medical community has really pushed hard to bring additional testing on board. Fort Hays State's doing a bunch of testing, and so that has helped to decrease our percent of positive. What you see in the blue is our 2-week percent of positive, and then the orange, obviously, is our 7-day average. The concerning thing on the percent of positive that we can see over the course of the pandemic is that early on we saw more gradual upslopes and more gradual downslopes. Here we saw a pretty fast acceleration pace. Hopefully this will continue on a downward trend. That really comes into people making good choices like we've talked before, following those health practices, things like that. We want to keep that percent of positive low, as that is somewhat of an indicator of what's going on in your community. Obviously it takes into account testing and overall cases. 7-day case growth, we've also seen a fairly precipitous decline here. Starting our peak, and this is the 7-day total cases. So we're falling on the good side of that line. Now, the good thing about being on the downslope is, like we've talked before, this is kind of indicative of decisions that were made a week, 2 weeks ago, things like that. So we did have the holiday weekend in there that was somewhat concerning. We hope to continue this trend down and not see a return. The numbers look better than they have, at least in a couple of weeks. We do see some improvements, mostly a testament to, like I said, the medical community really being diligent in getting that testing done and making sure that that we have adequate access to testing, and then people making good choices with not gathering in groups, and taking those best practices into account. On the health department side, continuing the contact tracing, all that kind of stuff. Like I said, I don't see that changing or eliminating at any point. The health department staff is working diligently to make sure that people get notified. You guys have any questions for me tonight?
I got a quick question for you. You looked at a grant to get additional staffing at the health department. Have you heard anything about the grant status yet?
Yeah, we actually were denied for the first. So I applied for 2 different grants. We were denied for the first grant. I'm not exactly sure where the money went, but it didn't come here. And then the second grant is still pending. I do believe that we will get, at least from what they've told us, we will get some portion of that funding.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the full extent of what it will be.
Okay, and you want to use that money to hire another nurse, is that correct?
I would like to. JD and I have had a conversation this week about looking at some initial proposals for that. So JD and I are working towards getting that taken care of. And I'll be honest, I did not get my part of that done in time to get it on this agenda. So we'll have it before you on the next agenda, regardless of grant funding.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep, keep up the good work, Jason. I've been following your updates on the county side, so you've been doing good on it. Thank you very much.
I had 2 questions for you, Jason. The first one is, what do you call a recovery? I know I've heard of a lot of asymptomatic cases. Is it a certain time frame then if we've tested them and they are asymptomatic throughout, or how do you guys decide that they're now cured of COVID-19?
Well, as with COVID, there's about 7 different answers to that question.
Okay.
So it depends on the individual case, but the vast majority of people are 10 days post onset of symptoms or 10 days post test. The reason for the 10-day time frame is that early studies and most of the studies we've found with COVID-19 is people are no longer contagious after that 10-day time period, as long as they remain asymptomatic. So it's 10 days post-test or 10 days post-onset of symptoms. Where a lot of people get confused is if you have symptoms 7 days ago, decide to go in and test 3 or 4 days to get your test back, you could be out of isolation as long as you're asymptomatic. You could be out of isolation by the time that your case actually reaches us.
Oh, okay.
10 days post-test or post-onset of symptoms, 72 hours post-fever, whichever is longer, is the definition that we use for that, unless you are in an intensive care type of setting. And then they show that those patients actually shed virus slower. So a lot of times we'll extend the duration of their quarantine or isolation, depending on the case severity, but up to around 20, 21 days, somewhere around in there.
Okay. The other question is about KDHE and how they're keeping up with our numbers comparative to theirs. I had a few people question why they were different. I told them that last meeting you had said there's issues where you're trying to work with them to get the data better or correct, but that they're wondering why sometimes they're ahead of you, sometimes they're behind you.
Sure. As are numbers. It's there's depending on the reporting time frame, depending on when the tests get to our office, depending on when they pull their data. The numbers we post are off of an export that we use out of our epidemiological system. So that export is what we use to determine cases per day and the number of tests per day. The KDHE, they do a similar setup, but I don't know. Their time frames might be different than ours, and then a lot of times we'll find cases that are credited at different days because there is a time frame gap with that testing. So all of our healthcare providers, HaysMed, really all the clinics, we're still getting test results back in 24 hours, 48 hours max. Some of the asymptomatic and private lab testing, especially associated with CRL, some of those test results might not come back in 5, 7. We might get a large mass dump. The weekend that we got 100 and some cases those cases were over the last 10 days prior to that day, but that case information. So KDHE's gotten a lot better with pushing out that information. They've got a new analytics guy that's doing a pretty decent job, but even they have frequent updates, and so we have to go back 10 days to recount cases, and so it's time frames, and we're all figuring it out as we go.
So if we happen to be behind them on the number of caseload, why would that be? I mean, it seems like you would have it before them. Is it just some sort of issue on their side?
So the most of the testing right now is reported to the state first. The labs are reporting directly from internal portal, basically. So they're reporting directly to the state of Kansas. And then there's also cases that are attributed to other counties, that because the resident goes to school here or the resident works here, tested here, but they live somewhere else. So figuring that out and that movement sometimes takes time for the data to catch up or lag or whatever.
Seeing that the question I got was about 20 cases, and so if that was what today's report was, that's exactly what it was, and the state just had it up before you.
And we'll probably, moving forward, I've tried really diligently to figure out and make sure that our numbers match theirs exactly, and because people get nervous when they're two different numbers. So what I'll tell the community is the numbers that we report are accurate to our office as of 10 o'clock that day. I'll continue to do that. I'm not going to chase the state's numbers for them. We know about any case that is attributed to Ellis County. We know about any case that's in Ellis County. We do the contact tracing, follow-up investigation as timely as we get those results. But chasing the case numbers through KDHE from the last 6.5 months is probably a futile effort, and one that I'm not going to continue to try and do.
Very good. No issues with the medical community right now being overrun?
No, the hospital's busier. They put out a press release. Obviously, they're busier. We saw an increase in just Ellis County cases, where, as has been with the pandemic, if it happens here, it's pretty much happening statewide, and so other areas have seen the same thing. So the hospital's busier, but they do not have a capacity issue according to them.
Good.
Okay. Thank you, Jason.
Thank
Hang
you.
in there. Okay, the appraiser's office update. Lisa.
Lisa Ree, Ellis County Appraiser. I thought I'd take a few moments of your time, Commission, this evening to tell you about a few positive things that have been happening in our office. One of them is I would like to present to you an accomplishment of one of our appraisal staff. Mike Weber has earned his registered mass appraiser designation through the Kansas Department of Revenue Property Valuation Division. Earning the RMA, is what we call it, RMA designation, includes several requirements. A candidate must have at least 200 hours of education, which includes passing written examinations. Some of the mass appraisal specific courses Mike completed are fundamentals of real property appraisal, income approach to valuation, uniform standards of professional appraisal practices, Kansas property tax law, fundamentals of mass appraisal, assessment administration, personal property valuation and assessment, and agricultural use valuation. An RMA candidate must also successfully complete a residential case study and commercial case study, as well as the Division of Property Valuation's eligibility exam. Another requirement is to document at least 6,000 hours of mass appraisal experience. This includes a minimum of 2,000 hours of experience in establishing values of property for ad valorem taxation, with the majority of those hours being related to the real property. Mike was able to document for the 6,000-hour requirement experience in data collection, quality control of other data collectors, land valuation, and setting annual values for real property and personal property. Achieving and maintaining a registered mass appraiser designation is not a quick and easy process. It's taken Mike several years, a few years, to get the education requirement, and he's been with the county, I believe, 15 years and was able to document his experience through that way. It also takes requirement on our office, dedication from our office and Mike. Mike had to be dedicated to learn, to take the classes, to get the experience. And then moving forward, any RMA designee must document 120 hours of continuing ed every 4 years. So I am personally, and our office is proud of Mike's accomplishments and ask that you join me in congratulating Mike Weber on receiving his registered mass appraiser designation.
I'll speak for Mike a little bit here first because I've played a little sports with him back in the day. Pretty good basketball player and softball player too, but I have no issue with thinking that Mike will work every day about as hard as anybody ever would in this county. So excited to see you having some success with this. I'm sure you want paid more now with all your kids, right?
Won't complain on that.
No, thanks, Mike. Thanks for all your hard work. Give him a round of applause.
Yes, Mike, thank you very much for everything you've done. I know it's taken a while to get there, so thank you for your hard work and continued dedication to that department.
Congratulations on the accomplishment, Mike.
Thank you.
Let it go. Another item I thought I would mention. As a commission, you should have received a letter from the Property Valuation Office regarding our office's results of the compliance for tax year 2020. And if you read the letter, it does say that we are in substantial compliance. Substantial compliance is made up of two sections. One is the procedural compliance. And despite our challenges last year with time frames, we were able to meet all of the procedural compliances as required by the state. The other portion of the compliance is the statistical compliance. And I know your letter didn't probably include that, but they determine if a sale is an open market, arm's length transaction.
Oh.
Those are the ones that they look at.
I get you. Okay.
Do you have any questions on that?
I don't have any. I know I got the letter also, so
Okay.
thank you.
All right.
No questions.
All right. The last thing is I wanted to share with you, we're kind of excited about. Beginning in January of 2021, our office will be able to offer to personal property taxpayers the option to file their personal property renditions online. We received the software last week and are working through some issues. And I'm confident once we get those issues resolved that we'll be able to move forward with that in January of 2021. And I personally feel that, especially with COVID issues, a lot of people will be using the online option.
Good deal.
And I anticipate that saving our office time, because we won't have to manually be doing those changes. The public will be making them for us. And I don't expect all of the public to take that option, but I believe it's worth it to have, even if we have 50% of the public using that option, it will help us out in the long run.
Good deal.
Lisa, can you explain how that works in the sense of, say we have somebody has a contractor that does some remodel on their house, and I mean, I guess just a simple remodel wouldn't make a difference, but if they, say, added a closet and added a bedroom or things like that, is that the type of thing that they could go in and not have to actually have an appraiser come in and see the changes to give to you, or?
No, that is on the real estate side.
Okay.
This online portion is only for personal property.
Oh.
Commercial businesses that file their personal property, if you've got a boat,
Gotcha.
heavy trucks, farm trucks, those type of things, that'll be.
The rest of the time, they'll wait till your appraisers see it in the yard? Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
All right.
Okay.
It's good.
Thanks,
Thank
Lisa.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, our next item on the agenda is the Nicodemus Historical Society. Angela?
Bill Ring, Director of Public Works. Angela is on her way. She should be here shortly. Could we move one more in front?
She's here.
She just got here.
Okay.
So. And we have two other special guests. Senator Rick Billinger and Representative Barbara Wassinger are both here. They were invited along with Representative Ken Rogers. So if they'd like to come up also, I'd appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm just going to say hey to everybody. How about that?
That's fine.
Okay.
Fine, Angela.
I'm going to introduce myself for the record. Can I pull this down a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. I got an entourage of folks here.
We're all family.
Yeah,
There
we
you
are.
go.
I have a couple of things I'm going to give out. You guys can make copies for yourselves or what have you. I was on the other side of the building trying to get in. I said, they locked me out.
Hi, Senator.
Okay. First of all, I just want to say I appreciate being able to have the opportunity to come and speak on behalf of everybody up and down the Saline Valley, Solomon Valley, Ellis County, Rooks County, Trigo County, and Graham County. I'll say this as a Kansan, that I think our history is our biggest asset in terms of tourism. And it's our connection not only to the past, but the potential for our economic development in the future. That's how I see it. That's the way I have pursued projects since I've moved to the Nicodemus area back in the early 90s. And one of the first things that I did after I moved here was to write Senator Dole and ask him would he consider a bill to designate Nicodemus as a National Historic Site. And to my surprise, he wrote back and said yes. It took 7 years from that point forward for us to get the designation, but it never crossed my mind that it wasn't going to happen. I think that we stand on the graves and the shoulders of our forefathers that helped to build this nation as well as this state, and I think Kansas is a great state, always have. And a lot of people think they can just pass us by on I-70, but we've got a lot to stop them for. Mm-hmm. And since the early 90s, I found out about how people traveled from Nicodemus all the way to Ellis because that's where they got off the train from Kentucky. And so we had in our memoirs information about the trail, the way that people traveled, but I didn't realize it was a real trail until about 5 years ago, and I was taking a dance class, and Roy Atchison, who's probably not here, who lives up in, I guess that's Graham County, he was telling me about this guy named Leroy Walsh, and their property where you could actually see the wagon ruts from the Nicodemus Wagon Trail. And I said, Nicodemus Wagon Trail? So, I know this is the first time many of you have heard this, but in their history and in the newspaper articles that they uncovered, yes, it was called the Nicodemus Wagon Trail. So to my surprise, there was actually this place called the Nicodemus Wagon Trail. But I had always been taking parts of the trail, which was really like the walking trail. So over the years, as I continued to find out more and more information about the Nicodemus Ellis Trail, I started to meet more and more people along the way, and their histories started to collaborate with the stories that I heard about people traveling the trail. And then Leroy actually took my cousin Bernard and I. Bernard is right here. He's been ill. He was on his deathbed. We thought he was going away from here, but he's still sticking around, and he wanted to come this evening, and he's going to be there for the dedication. God bless him. But he's been a real stickler with me making sure that we get this history recorded and the trail recognized. So when I met Leroy, Bernard and I went on his property, and he took us over so we could see the wagon ruts. And I couldn't see them at first. I kept looking, but the sun finally changed a little bit, and I could see the ruts. And so that was so exciting. And then to read the article about his great-aunt that was a school teacher out there who died in a blizzard, and they're talking about the school was like 75 yards or feet from the Nicodemus Wagon Trail. To see that in print just was like, oh my God, this is really real. So ever since then, I've been working hard to interpret the history on the trail. And every year in June, we try to do a public event where we can invite people that are interested to take the trail from Ellis, where the people got off the depot, all the way over to Nicodemus. For the last 5 years, the National Parks Foundation gives us funding, and I say us, I wish it was me, but it gives the Nicodemus Historical Society about $8,000 to bring area fourth graders to Nicodemus on a field trip. So typically what we do is we start in Ellis, and we bring them over by bus. And the kids in the 4 counties are the ones that actually participate. Of course, this year, because of COVID, we could not do it. But during our emancipation celebration at the end of July, I did about an hour presentation about the migration west, and then getting off at Ellis, and then the Ellis Trail, and I had photographs and what have you. So, you know, a year ago, it's been a little bit over a year ago when your dad died. Was it in September?
September 6th.
September the 6th.
Exactly.
Yeah. Henry, his father, died. And Henry was always out there on the at the Walsh's homestead when the kids would show up and when the adults on the tours would come. And he died at 105. Man was phenomenal. I mean, he's made of Kansas grit. And so when I met him, I thought, God, this is really wonderful to be able to meet him in his latter years of his life. And so when he passed away, I got a chance to see him a couple of days before he actually passed. And he always said to me, you know, I never thought I would get a chance to really get to know any of you people from Nicodemus. And I have Ernestine's Restaurant, and I told him when he turned 100, I said, from this point forward, you come here anytime and you can eat as much as you want. And believe me, he did up until and I was surprised. I remember the last time he came in, it was late at night, and I said, you know, Mr. Walsh, are you going to drive home? And so he said, you know what, I helped build these roads. So it was amazing. So the family donated the money from his memorial to the Nicodemus Historical Society, and what best way to use that money was to build the sign. And this was the poster or the banner that they would have up when the tours would come and the kids would come. And it depicts the family and the farm, and, you know, that's the Mendota post office also. And so this is a great way to start, you know, actually putting out on the landscape the history and doing it in the signs. And what I have here to give out to you guys, and you guys can make copies, is a little bit of information about the sites along the trail where they spent the night, the literal physical landmarks that they saw, and these are all physical landmarks and places where it is noted that they traveled and would stop. And so when we give the tours, we always give out a little brochure, and we try to bring the history to life. And what we've been doing is, like at the Walsh's homestead, Al and yeah. Matter of fact, this is Al. This is Leroy. I'm sorry.
I'm Alan Longstaff. My grandfather was Henry Walls, and he was Willie Walls, and he was born in that dugout and lived there until he got married in 1911, and he moved across the road, and I live in his farmhouse now that he built in 1911.
And this is his cousin Leroy.
Yeah, Leroy.
You want to say anything, Leroy?
I never met a Mike that I didn't like. But Angela done such a great job. I'll just say it's been absolutely phenomenal. Our coming together and working on this, because I've known this all my life, that what's written down here comes out of the Walsh book, that the blacks would come through the homestead. They would ask for water because we had a windmill there, and they always granted them, of course, the opportunity to drink, and they said that they carried a burlap bag and oftentimes were barefoot. But so that was in our story, and then to meet a descendant was just, I think, phenomenal.
And so I think that the collaboration over the years has been absolutely wonderful. It's a way of people in adjacent counties coming together with the commonality of people that lived in the area. In the early years, the mail wagon that would leave Nicodemus would travel on what was called 390th over to the first post office, which was the Keybar post office. We have the actual stone from the building that says Keybar on it. Then from there, they went over to Crescent, which used to be Palco. And then from there to Amboy, and from there to the Mendota post office, and then on in to Ellis. And I have recently found out that since we've been kind of letting people know what we're doing, someone in Phillips County said, don't forget about Logan. And I was doing research for the National Park Service for one of the signs that's out in front of the post office there in Nicodemus, which is the oldest and first post office actually owned and operated by an African American in the United States. That is one of 5 historic buildings which make up Nicodemus National Historic Site. But it'll be neat to be able to go into Phillips County and pull in how they brought the mail to Nicodemus and then all the way over to Ellis. And so, you know, when I think about the history of Nicodemus, I can't think about it without thinking about how it impacted everybody around them and how everybody around them impacted Nicodemus. And so this is a great way for us to share our history and to bring the history to life and potentially garner some serious interest on taking tours on the trail. This is the first sign. Since we've started, we've gotten several donations. Right now, I think we're up to about $800 in additional donations. And so we've got a plan to actually put signs out on these various sites, like the Walsh Homestead would be the first one. Happy Hollow is where they spent the night. That's right on the corner of, it's in Graham County. Gady Hill, which is a major landmark visually. When you get to a certain place on the trail, the valley opens up, and it's a beautiful ride, and you all know that because this is in your county. But there's also a place along just south of DeMar, which is called the School Mound. People in the area call it the School Mound. That's when they could see the first sight of Nicodemus, and we've got stories about Williana Hickman and her husband, Reverend Hickman, who said when they got to that point, they looked across the valley, and his wife said, "Where's Nicodemus? I looked with all my eyes, and I still couldn't see Nicodemus." And he pointed out the puffs of smoke coming off of the dugouts in the distance. And so we know that's a spot where they actually got the first glimpse of Nicodemus. So this project, to me, will collaborate and give people in the area an opportunity to work together to tell our history. It's not just the history of Nicodemus and those people, but it's the history of all the people along the way that know part of the history that I didn't even know anything about. So this is the first sign. I'm pleased to see it. I had a chance to see it before it got like this, but on Thursday when they actually install it, we've invited folks to come over and see the actual installation of it. So really, basically, that's it. It's all about the history. It's all about how we can collaborate through the counties to tell a joint history. Any questions?
Questions, gentlemen?
Come on, you got to have one
This sounds
question.
very interesting. You're telling
Absolutely.
me stuff I didn't know because I drive back and forth on that road from Ellis to
Yeah,
Zurich and Palco on a very regular basis, like 2 to 3 times a week. And You're telling me things I didn't know.
Did you know Palco was moved a couple of times?
I did know that.
Yeah. And there was a post office that was called Crescent. I don't know who I should give this to.
The clerk would probably be able to.
Okay.
Start with the clerk.
And you can make copies of this for everybody. That tells you a little bit of history. One of the things I'd like to end with is, at our Historical Society in Nicodemus, we process information and photographs and documents that people give us from all over. And one of the most exciting things for me as it relates to this project is about a couple of years ago, we were processing Ola Wilson's collection, and the house that we have the museum in was her house. And we were processing her collection, and we ran across a letter that was written by Abram Hall. Abram Hall was the census taker for Graham County in 1879 when they had the first census to organize the county and organize the first township, which was Nicodemus. He was writing this letter to R.B. Scruggs, who is Ola Wilson's dad. And he wrote this letter, like I think it was I think it was the early 20s. I'm not sure what the date is on the letter. But he was working in Pennsylvania. And he writes in this letter about his experiences coming to Kansas. And he talks about how they got off the train in Leavenworth, and then they came on out to Ellis. And then they had made arrangements for some wagons that were going to take them over to Nicodemus. And in this letter, he says, we rested at the Saline River, and when we got ready to leave, I noticed that my satchel was missing. It had fallen off the wagon. He said, so they went on, and me and one of the wagon masters went back to find my satchel. And they found it. And he said, and they said, meet us at Happy Hollow. That's where they spent the night. And this is what was critical in the letter. He said, it's halfway the remaining distance from the Saline River. Well, Roy Atchison and I had gone around and around and around and around as to where this Happy Hollow was. I really thought it was where they have a shell quarry there. And he said, no, that's not quite the distance. And so when we found the letter, that really proved that he was right. So that was exciting in terms of being able to process a bit of history that really kind of confirmed what he thought. And so it's every time we uncover something, a little bit of the history, it makes for a greater story. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Someone said, how can you help? What you're doing by putting this particular sign up, and we probably have one other big sign which is going to be just north of here a couple of miles, which is where we think more or less they crossed or forged the Saline River. The picture that we use and the performance that we do at that point is where we have the Buffalo Soldiers coming down the river, and Barry Tompkins and another one of the Buffalo Soldiers from Nicodemus. They're dressed in all of the period attire. And the reason we wanted to include them, even though they had nothing really to do with the trail, was we knew that the Buffalo Soldiers were stationed here, and there were many battles that took place up and down the Saline River, and we know they had been in the area. So we thought it would be neat to bring that part of the history to life. So that'll be one of the signs that we're going to put up in Ellis County, another big one. And then we're going to put smaller signs which have a silhouette of a wagon with Ellis Trail written on it. Those are going to be attached to 4x4 steel posts that will be probably along, I think that's the blacktop is road 2 or 3, the blacktop.
Up north?
Yes, yeah. Which one?
I think it's 3.
Okay. We want to be able to, indicate that the trail is really east of there, but we have a map that they can actually take the county roads if they want to. But we need to be able to let people know, and we have a brochure that we're developing, QR codes and that kind of thing, and we hope to be able to, really promote the trail. And is Ken here? Okay. He's been excited about the trail for a long time, and we've been talking about seeing if we could get the trail designated as a historic trail. Several years ago, I was working with a young lady over in Waukene, and they were saying, well, we should attach it to the scenic trail for, what's the lake? Cedar Bluff. And I was like, yeah, it's scenic, but this is more of a historic trail. So we're going to be working to try to get that designated. Hopefully that won't be as bad as working with Congress to get the bill passed for Nicodemus. Any other
Angela,
comments or anything?
I was going to tell you, I think you found your fourth grade field trip cover, If He Likes a Mic.
Yes. Well, he always is there to talk.
There you go.
He's always there to talk, he as well as Al. And Henry was there. He was 100. He was probably at least 100 years old when we had the first tour. And he was right out there meeting the kids, and it's just wonderful to know the impact that he had on me personally and on the history of this trail.
Well, I'd imagine you got to get pretty good to be able to handle a bunch of fourth grader questions on a trail ride.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Surprisingly,
Between
some
now
of
and
the questions they ask, you wonder, now how did they think of that one?
Yeah.
I have a question. Angela, I enjoyed visiting with you the other day. I was going to ask you, were mentioning this is the first sign that you're going to cite, and then did you say there were 3 more? Happy Hollow?
Well, here in Ellis, we would like to put the one up at the depot. We did a reenactment of the folks arriving in Ellis probably about 5 years ago. I can't remember. We went to Kentucky. About 32 of us went to Kentucky, and we did the reenactment of actually getting on the train in Sadieville, Kentucky. And it was filmed. We're trying to see if we can get the company to actually do something with that footage that they actually took. But then the following year, we did the reenactment of arriving at Ellis, the same 32 people. And it was just neat. So we have a photograph of that. Everybody's kind of dressed in their period attire and all. And Phil Martin, who lives over in Ellis, he always plays our W.R. Hill. And so we would like to be able to have a sign there that says, this is where people arrived en route to Nicodemus. This was the stopping off point. And so we'd like to really, and I noticed that you guys are doing some wonderful things at the museum there. So to add that sign as it relates to the history of Nicodemus as a National Historic Site and sites along the trail would be great. And then, like I said, I think we want one across where the river is, where across the Saline River. And then also at the top, I don't even know, it's on 110th Avenue, but it's just as you crest the southern border, so to speak, of the valley there, and you start to go down. Well, that's when it opens up. As you're driving up, you're just driving up, and then when you get to a certain point, it opens up, and you can see the whole Saline Valley, and it's gorgeous. And from there is when you can see Gady's Bluff, which is a major landmark for people on the trail, because the walking trail goes right by Gady Hill. And if you take the road, or if you just walk straight north beside the Gady Hill, you'll run right into Nicodemus. And so that was a major landmark. And when you get to that point, if you haven't been out there, it's just absolutely gorgeous. So it is scenic, but I'm interested not only in the scenery of it, but the history of the people in the valley and people along the trail.
Very good.
Thank you.
I'd just like to point out, the lady to your left is my great-grandmother, our great-grandmother, and then the lady behind the horse is my grandmother. She grew up on the adjoining 80. I'm related myself because my grandpa and my grandma were second cousins, so they homesteaded side by side. And then the lady to the right was the youngest, Aunt Mary Zerfus. And then we think great-grandpa was probably way down there with the cattle buyer. But that's them over here in the pictures, great-grandma and great-grandpa for us.
And on the trail right now, and right there on the property, you guys have been wonderful in terms of cutting the trail, the walking trail as a people. And then Matthew, his son, actually created 2 silhouettes. So if you're driving by, you see these silhouettes of the people walking across the trail, and you wonder, what's that all about? Now you can stop and read the sign and learn a lot more about it.
Okay,
And I'm
Barbara.
sure since this is going to be open, we want all the visitors and tourists that we can get it to come to Kansas to see this, that now Burger View Road 110 and Saline River Road will be in a lot better shape, too.
You're going to talk to Bill Ring about that one.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and I know we have more support than what you can see right now. There's so many people that are excited. Carla Bernard's daughter, she works for us at the visitor center, although the visitor center is closed because of COVID. But as a result, she's really excited about the trail. And over the years, I'd say since the mid-'90s, when I started driving the trail to the blacktop, and then I would get off and I would just wonder. It's been exciting to know that all of this has really kind of come to life now. And there's been people that have wanted to do trail rides along the trail. That would take some logistics. But bicycle groups have been interested and have talked to us. And now we've had so many people, including Carla. I said, you can walk ahead of everybody else, but everybody wants to walk the trail. I don't know if you know about the Harriet Tubman women that were walking the Harriet Tubman Underground Trail here in the last week, but there's a lot of interest in doing that sort of thing. So that's another thing that we can really plan for us to really reenact walking the trail, because I can't imagine. My great-grandmother at the time was 8 months pregnant, and for her to walk that distance and then have the first baby, I think I could do that. I'm not going to be pregnant, but I think I may be able to do that. And so there's people that are really interested in the history and being able to be a part of the reenactments and all.
Mm-hmm. Good deal.
That one closing thought, because a while ago we was talking about kids say the darndest things, and of course, Dad, I think he was only 104 at our last time that we had it, and one of the kids, the school wrote a nice thank you card, and they wrote on there, "Thank you, Mr. Waltz, for being so old."
Okay. Barbara, Rick, did you have anything to say?
I just think it's wonderful, and I think it's a great idea that we're doing this, because our history truly is our greatest treasure in Kansas, and I think we ignore it way too frequently. So I'm thrilled to see this up, and congratulations. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for the invitation, and thank you for all you're doing here. This is, I never knew a lot of this either. And how many miles is it from Lake
35.
Ellis there? 35?
35 miles.
I say maybe I'd try to walk that, but that's quite a
Well,
ways.
it's going to take at
Two
least
days.
2 days.
Okay.
It took them 2 days. It may take us about 3.
Well, thank you all for your hard work, and this is wonderful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We're just excited to share family history. So.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
okay, gentlemen, any questions?
No,
concerns?
thank you all for coming. And
Oh, Thursday at 11 o'clock. That's when you guys are going to be actually installing the sign. And Leroy and I were out there today. We want to make sure that it gets installed. If you're standing on the road looking south, that it gets installed like this rather than like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the young man that David, was his name? Yeah, he was like, I think it's going to be this way. And I was like, no, I think it should be this way. So we want to make sure that either way, we appreciate you guys installing the sign. But that will be 11 o'clock on Thursday. We've put it out on Facebook. We're getting responses already. We've told anybody that wants to come for the unveiling of the sign or the installation of the sign, they're welcome to come. We have to, of course, distance and wear the mask. So we're excited about that.
Okay.
And if you guys have an opportunity to come over, we expect to see you there.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
thank you again.
Commissioners, do I hear a motion for this?
I move to approve the installation of the Nicodemus Historical Marker sign at 143 Saline Road.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Okay, our next agenda item will be the contract extension for hauling services at the county landfill.
Hi there, Vern Reuter, landfill foreman.
Hi, Vern.
Sorry, mine won't be as interesting, but I was contacted a couple weeks ago by Clayton Beffert with Inner Circle Trucking about extending our hauling contract, which expires in March of 2021. And after lengthy discussion with him, he said he would be happy to extend it if you guys would be willing to do that at the same terms as the 2016 rates, which I think was a pretty good deal. Last year we did over 11,000 tons of municipal waste getting hauled to Garden City. And I think that rate stability for the next 5 years would be good for the landfill. And in 2021, the rates at Garden City's Waste Connections is going up 3% per year. But I think this will help keep our rates at the landfill at least steady for the next 5 years, which we do look at over, every year we look at the rates, make sure they're in line with everybody.
And you haven't had any problems with the current contract?
No, not at all. He's been very easy to work with, and we usually haul 2 loads a day with one driver, but when we do need a second driver, they've been getting us a driver as soon as we need it. So,
okay. Any questions for Vern?
For those of you that don't know Clayton Beffert, he's here. Clayton, would you come up here, please, so everybody knows who you are and who we're dealing with? I've known Clayton for, I don't know, a very long time, but as...
Hi there, I'm Clayton Beffert.
Clayton.
Hey, Clayton.
As you know, Dustin Rhodes, fellow commissioner, and Butch Schleier, the chair. I don't know. I'm guessing you probably know Butch. I doubt you knew Dustin, but...
Oh, I know your sons.
Oh, okay.
So don't know you very well, but I do know of your kids. So
Sure.
I like the Rams shirt.
Yeah, well, thank you.
How'd they do last night?
Yeah, they won.
They did win? Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't watch?
I watched a little bit just to see that new stadium.
Yeah, no, they did win.
That's where I should have been.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know Clayton, he runs very high-quality equipment. His trucks are second to none. There's nothing old about Clayton's equipment. It's 99% time of the very clean equipment, and he runs very good, like I say, very good equipment. Hauling trash is a very destructive service to his trailers, unfortunately. Clayton's trailers go through a lot of abuse throughout the year, and he basically probably has to fix at least one of them probably once or twice or so through a week a lot of times. But he does a good job, and he has good equipment and good drivers.
Okay, great.
Vern, I just have a couple questions on it. So we're going to extend this. I think that's great, like I said, for the finances of the county. When we initially did the contract, was there any kind of bid process, or was this a something that was pre-you, or?
This was before I was there.
Okay.
Which I think they did put it out for RFPs.
As I recall, there was a bidding process.
Okay. See, that's perfect. If we can lock in a rate then that's already been bid before, and we're not seeing any kind of annual increase, I think we're in really good shape with this. So.
I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was. I think Clayton probably could tell me, but we bid it then. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
And,
It was 5, okay.
I think we had 2 bids, and one was a lot higher than Mr. Beffert's, and the other one I think submitted. I guess there was 3. I think one submitted a bid, then canceled out. I think almost the night before, the day before it all took place, and we went with Clayton, and he's provided a superior service ever since then. So.
And I've been doing it 15 years, 14 and a half.
Oh, you have been a long
Yeah.
time. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I imagine we're keeping them more and more busy as we go here. It seems like you keep getting busier every month. So.
Yep, I was going to say our things have been busier. So, and as we expand too with the new land and everything, we just, like I said, we just continue to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Okay. Do we hear a motion?
I move that the 5-year contract extension between Inner Circle Trucking LLC for municipal waste hauling rates through April 1st, 2026 be approved.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Okay, next is the 2019 audit. Melissa.
Well, Well, good evening. I brought with me this evening Jamie Benachek, and she helped work on the audit today. She's actually going to go over the audit report. We're not going to spend a lot of time. Again, I believe you saw most of the numbers when JD presented and Darren had presented the budget to you guys. Of interest, though, I would like to run over the loose leaf letter that's in your audit report, and it's called the governance letter. You do not have a management letter because there was no significant deficiencies nor weaknesses in internal control, which has been the case for the past few years. And so in the governance letter, we talk about your accounting practices and the type of accounting basis that you do, which is a regulatory basis of accounting. We encountered no difficulties. We do have some journal entries that we have given to Donna down at the clerk's office to post along with the county treasurer. We did not have any disagreements with management. They got all the information we needed in a timely manner to us. We do just have a few audit recommendations, and I'm going to let you read those. They're at the bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3.
You didn't find anything else, Melissa? That was it?
These are the items that we had to respond on this evening, yes.
Sure.
We had also visited with each of the individual departments that were associated with these items and had went over those items with them.
Okay.
And so we feel that they're going to take the necessary steps in order to correct them, and we do not anticipate that they would be on next year's governance letter at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good.
Are there any questions on them?
I have none.
I have none.
Just an idea from JD's perspective, as we see any kind of turnover, to remind them of these issues that had happened throughout that year, and especially in Vern's and the treasurers. Obviously, we're going to have some switch around there, most likely. So that was my only thought from that. Other than that, I had no idea how to say your last name, Jamie. So that's that's a new thing for me.
All right. So Jamie will go over the report.
Okay.
Okay. As Melissa said, my name is Jamie Benachek. I'm a manager with Adams Brown. We're going to start on page 4 of the audit report. There's just a couple of pages I wanted to show you. Pages 1 through 3 is the independent auditor's report, and the main paragraph in that report says that we have issued an unmodified opinion on your financial statements that is also known as a clean audit, or it's the best audit opinion that we can issue for the county. So on page 4, this is your summary statement of receipts, expenditures, and unencumbered cash balances. As Melissa said, these numbers should look very familiar since they are what you started your 2021 budget with. At the very bottom, the third column from the right, is your ending unencumbered cash, $13,039,000. You started the year of 2019 with $13,776,000. So that's an overall decrease of $736,000. There are a couple of funds that definitely contributed to that. One is your capital equipment reserve fund. It's about 8 from the top. That fund decreased $600,000. You purchased some major equipment in 2019, a motor grader, tractor, ambulance, election software. But it is also positive to note that your general fund increased $172,000 in 2019. So that's always great to see. Any questions on this page? Okay, I'll have you flip to page 10. The following pages after page 4 are your footnotes to the audit. They're required by our standards to put in there. If you read through those and you have any questions, we're more than happy to answer those. You can contact us directly, or Donna knows how to get a hold of us. But page 10, I wanted to show you note number 8. This is your stewardship, compliance, and accountability. Here we would know any statute violations that the county had for the year, and we do have one. Expenditures exceeded available monies in the return checks fund. That is essentially what that fund is for. At the end of 2019, there was a check that was returned. It was not able to be cashed, and it goes into this fund until that cash is collected. So it goes negative, and then it clears out to zero, and it's just a timing difference there. It's nothing to be concerned about, but we do have to put it in there for you to see. Any questions on that?
None.
Okay, last page is page 15. This page is a summary of your debt at the end of 2019. The top is what the county's debt is, and then you have your related municipal entity debt at the bottom, and that's your fire district, for a total debt at the end of 2019 of $3,542,000. The fire district has 2 leases there, and that first one, 2 that have a balance at the end of the year. That first one of $25,000 is actually paid off as of today. So it's always good to keep your debt in front of you. And other than that, that was the gist of your audit report. The rest of the pages are your fund statements in detail. If you, again, if you look through those and have questions, we're more than happy to answer. And we just want to thank Donna and all the other departments for helping us get through a remote audit this year. It was 100% remote. We didn't even come downstairs. They did bring a few things upstairs for us. Otherwise, it was just all electronically provided, and it was different, but we got it done. So we want to thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Good job, as always.
Questions, Dustin?
Are there any questions that you would have, or?
I don't have any.
I didn't see any offhand. No. Not at all, Melissa.
Okay, just one quick question. So the thing that you were alluding there is the on your audit recommendations. That was what you alluded to on that page.
On the governance letter?
Yeah, on the governance letter.
On page 10 of the report, on that note, that would be something different.
That's something different. Okay.
That is something different. That was an actual violation we have to state within the audit report. The other ones are recommendations that don't rise to a level of being significant in our terminology nor material, but they are things that we went over with management, and we did visit with them about it. So you as a board need to be aware of that, and so we've made you aware of that.
Was there any fine or anything involved with that?
No, the state may issue you a letter just asking you not to maybe do it again, but again, if you explain what has happened, it would make sense.
Somewhat of a common error, just that we can't do it again.
Well, the thing is when you get those return checks, and it'd be nice if you could get it collected by December 31st. But as Jamie had indicated, sometimes it's a timing issue. And so if it's on real estate taxes, if you go back in and you put it back into the CIC, so if you undid my real estate house and my real estate taxes, if it was my check, then there's more of a sense that an error could occur if you try to refund my check back in there and then take it back out. That would be one way to take care of it.
Okay, that makes more sense. No questions then from me.
Nothing for me.
I have one thing, if I could. So you might take that a step further if there's, I know we talked about this before, we might share, though, if there's another best practice that would be different from this, the way we handled it.
It could be, because it's a lot of times it's your real estate taxes that are being receipted in, or it's your personal property taxes. So if I come in to buy a tag, and that by undoing it or taking that back out, it makes my tag delinquent. So you kind of have something that, I would want that tag. There is a possibility, if you wanted to, you could make a transfer. The general fund could pay for that and put it back in to make it positive. At the end of the year, it's a little bit more paperwork, and the citizens then would be paying for me being delinquent, say, if I was the person. There is you could do it that way if it was larger. Most of the time, this has not been something we cited in the last couple of years, so it truly was a timing issue at this point.
Okay.
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 Very good.
Do I hear a motion?
I move the 2019 Ellis County audit be approved.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Melissa.
Okay, the next item is the Ellis Cares CAD RMS contract and permission to modify the dispatch room. Darren.
We were doing rock, paper, scissors to see who would come up. The proposal before you is to modify or expand the dispatch server room. I don't know if any of you have been down there to see that. It is right off of the dispatch center. It houses all of the computer and communication equipment for the 911 dispatch center, as well as much of the equipment, or some of the equipment for law enforcement, both Ellis County Sheriff and the Hayes PD. The server room where everything is currently housed is roughly half of the space that you have in front of you here in the dais. It's about 6 feet wide. I can touch both walls by standing like this, and about 18 feet long or 12 feet long. It's very crowded. For a person my size, it is. I worry when I go in there that I'm going to hit the breaker and shut the power off to the entire building. But just a little history of that room. Adjacent to that room is what was originally a locker room for the law enforcement, and included a shower, which is roughly 8 by 10 feet. The shower is immediately adjacent to that. What we're proposing to do is knock a hole in the wall, a 36-inch opening doorway, and making that the server room, moving the server equipment out of the dispatch server room into this shower, and that way we'd have servers in one room and communication equipment in the other, thereby making more room. Servers are what we need more room to work on. Switches and communication equipment is pretty much plug and play for the most part. But servers, you got to get in behind and things like that, and it's always been a real challenge. So we're proposing to make that shower into a server room. I've spoken with the sheriff in the past. This actually is a project that Chad Reuter, the city IT director, and myself have been working on for a couple of years, and funding had always been the sticking point. But the shower is not being used. The plumbing has been capped off but not cut off, so there would be some plumbing work to do to cut the water off behind the shower, so there'd be no risk of, or reduced risk of flooding in the server room. But the funding came about as part of the CARES Act. Chad and I worked together on our projects to determine what needs we had. This actually ended up on the city's project list and was approved for the funding to do that. It is a county project, but because Chad and I were working together, just by coincidence, I guess, it happened to end up on the city's project list. But it is a county building. It is county equipment that will go in there. So the funding will just come from the CARES Act via the city's projects. We are currently waiting on a renewed quote from the one contractor who gave us a quote 2 years ago, and waiting on 2 additional quotes. We put out 3 requests for quotes last time. We got 1 back. I'm waiting for 2 more again this time, and a refresh on the one we got last time. So that is the plan. Did I miss anything, Darren?
Sounds good.
So because it's your building, I'm just asking permission to proceed with that. Again, the funding is in order. How
long do you anticipate remodeling to take?
Well, as with everything else in the CARES Act, it has to be done by December 30th. So we are going to desperately try to minimize the amount of disruption in dispatch. Typically what we'll do is have, we call it a flagman. If we're making any noise that is disrupting dispatch, we're going to, first of all, pick a day. We've been working with the dispatch communications manager, Jeff Ridgway, to figure out what day is best. There really isn't a good day. You just never know from one day to the next what 911 is going to be like. But we'll pick a day that they think is most often a slow day. And then when they begin to do work, especially cutting the doorway, that'll be the noisiest thing. If a 911 call comes in, we'll tap the operator on the shoulder. He'll stop. The call will be taken, and then when they're done, we'll proceed. So we're going to desperately try and minimize that. We don't anticipate that particular piece of it will take, I'm assuming an hour for the cutting of that door. I assume they'll have to cut from both sides. It's a concrete block wall, so they'll have to cut from both sides, and it will be noisy, it will be dirty. Again, we'll have to desperately try and abate the dust. I don't think they'll have to use water to cut the hole, hopefully. Dust is it's not easier to abate than water. They're both bad, but we will do everything we can to make sure that all of the water and dust will be kept to a minimal amount. So,
okay, sounds good. Any questions for Mike?
I don't have any. Looks like a good deal. I know what he's talking about. It's a narrow area, so it needs to happen. Thanks for all your work.
I don't know if a motion is required or just consensus, but
it is.
Looks like it. As far as the funding portion of this, will it go to the city of Hayes? They pay the contractor?
Yes.
Okay.
It was part of their direct aid plan, as Mike was talking about, and so
Very good.
it'll go to them, and then they'll pay the contractor.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I move that the remodel of the 911 dispatch center server room be approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, next is the selection of voting delegate and alternate delegates for the K-Camp annual meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move that Dustin Rhodes is the delegate and Mr. Butch Schleier is the alternate.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
That was easy.
That was real easy.
I didn't even railroad you into that, Dustin, did I now?
The Zoom meeting, I wondered if you guys would want to do that or not.
Actually, I won't be here that day. That's why I thought I'm going to nominate you.
Okay, County Administrator report. J.D.?
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll try to make mine relatively briefer, but I do have a few things to chat with you about this evening. One of the things that we wish to point out, speaking of the CAD RMS system, is when we talk about the $1.5 million estimate that we had set up, that's actually for a whole set of or subset of contractors and other vendors, and I just wanted to make sure that was clear. There's all sorts of different network switches and firewall hardware. There's firewall hardware, tablets, and those kinds of things. So there's all sorts of different things that will go into that $1.5 million. Also, the new system will bring with it additional costs as far as ongoing maintenance, and we wanted to make sure that you are aware of that. I spoke with Darren actually multiple times on this, and he's building it into his budget for future years, so we make sure that is communicated with not only you all, but he's also working to communicate with the other municipalities so they know as well, and the other entities. And I believe all the people that are involved in the project have known that kind of from the get-go. It's just we want to make sure all the governing bodies are aware of it as well. let's see. Continue on Ellis Cares. We have received initial comment back from the state. They identified out of a total of 120, some 12 programs that they offered comments on. And I've been working with the various subrecipients over this last week, getting a response prepared for all of those. I think we'll have good responses to all comments that were made. We shall see what their responses to our response will be. We have our initial technical advisor will be assigned tomorrow. We've got a conference call set up with the state with a number of counties in our region, our geographic region. So we'll take it from that point. They'll introduce the new technical advisor, and then we'll set up a one-on-one meeting with them then from that point on, and be able to submit our responses to their comments. Also, in the area of audit and compliance, we do have I have signed an agreement with a auditing firm to provide hopefully what will be just some small advice here and there for compliance purposes, to make sure that we remain in line with what is occurred. On a different note, I wanted to mention that sales tax, the new sales tax goes into effect on October 1. And we have reached out to the chambers assisting with, in Hayes, is assisting with the communication with the various vendors and folks that collect sales tax, just as a reminder. And then also I'm reaching out to the other cities to make sure that we make contact there as well. So that's underway currently. We also, I've given the chairman a stack of brochures that we received from the state today regarding the census, and wish to encourage everyone to, if they haven't already, to participate in the census. We've got lots of flyers. If anybody would like one, we have them available. We are having a meeting this coming week. Bill Ring and I are meeting with our representative to discuss the KDOT cost share program, that we could participate up to $900,000, and so we'll be working on that as well. And I think with that, I'll stop there.
Okay, J.D. Thank you. County Commission reports.
Mine's simple. KAC meeting Friday in Salina, Kansas. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Roth.
Just a quick question for JD on the CARES Act stuff. Without a response from the state, does that mean that that particular project is a go and we can distribute funding?
I did not learn until today, but that is correct.
Okay.
That is for certain. No, I had made that assumption and was waiting anxiously to find out for sure, but that is correct.
Okay.
Which
and
is
with
good
those
news.
others, is there any building concerns? I've had multiple people ask me about the 3 bid issue and whether or not they could get that accomplished before December, and I had assured them of what we talked about, that they just have to give us a substantial reason why they couldn't get 3, and that they had attempted, and that they had reason to believe that the pricing was fair and
right.
Okay.
So and I have spoken with a number of subrecipients, well, maybe 2 handfuls of subrecipients about those various things, and I've asked them. We brainstorm first of all and talk about what their various scenario was, and if they were in a situation where it might be a sole source type of thing, I asked them to document that, to send it over to me with the idea that I would initial it and then put it in the file so we'd have it for compliance purposes.
Great. Yep. And hopefully our local contractors can keep up with the load and be able to keep that money as close to home as possible. So that's it from me.
Okay. And I have no report. And we will have 2 executive sessions tonight. First executive session, I'll make a motion to go into executive session for 30 minutes for non-elected personnel issues, to include the Board of Commissioners, County Councilor Jeter, and County Administrator Cox.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.